All right, welcome to a brand new episode of Protocol Explorer. So today I am joined by Slava, who is going to be talking to us a little bit about Orderly and the SDK that y'all have. Slava, can you tell us about yourself a little bit and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey everyone, happy to be here. So I'm leading the DevRel here at Orderly. And at Orderly, what we do is we're essentially an infrastructure, what I like to call kind of Dex as a service or order book as a service, if you will. So we're essentially easing the development hurdles of launching your own perpetual exchange. And by doing so, by being that infrastructure, we're solving a few issues, right? Of mostly around the liquidity, where each front end, uh, all the liquidity from each front end kind of pulls together into a singular order book, which means it's making the whole order book deeper with tighter spreads, right? So it's the same, similar to kind of Synthetics V3 and their new approach of just being the infrastructure rather than a DEX themselves. And we do have an omni-chain order book, which is chain agnostic. So all the orders from every chain comes into that single order book. So a trader from Optimism and a trader from Arbitrum are going to be matched in the same order book.
Gotcha. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? So I guess, what are the use cases of, like, let's say I'm trading on Optimism, but you have this omni-chain solution. Um, what benefits do I get of being able to, I guess, transact on multiple chains?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is just the aggregation of liquidity, all right? Because by the old design, right, take like Uniswap or any other DEX, uh, when they want to deploy on a different chain, it's a completely separate instance, right? So you're going to have to go through the whole hurdles of just pretty much launching a new product, right? Of onboarding the liquidity, and then the users on both of them are separate. In our case, everything stays the same, right? So you're coming in on Optimism, you deposit, you create an account, you start trading. And it doesn't matter which chain it's from, right? So it's much more liquidity efficient in that sense, and not requiring projects to have a separate instance every time. All you need, if you want to deploy on a new chain that we support, is literally just essentially it's just a config. You just add that chain on the front end for the users to be able to deposit and withdraw, and that's it.
How do you go about, like, adding, like, new chains for support? Like, I guess the decision process, and then, is it
Uh,
different
I think the
on-chain?
decision it's mostly lies on like it's a business decision. On
Mhm.
the tech side, right? Once it's EVM, we don't need that much extra work because we're essentially a three-layered approach where we take the assets on a separate level, all the execution, so the execution layer, and then the kind of the settlement layer. Um, so I kind of go through kind of the high level of when the user comes in, we have the asset vaults is what we call it on every chain that we're on, and then that's kind of the gateway to Orderly, and then from there, once the user then places a trade, all the trades are going through the off-chain engine, so similar to the DYDX v3. And then once the trades are matched and executed, they're all settled on our own L2, and we're using OP Stack for that. Uh, with that, right, it's uh, it's very easy for us to deploy to the new chain. You just take the asset vault, we deploy it on the new chain, we enable the cross chain messaging to go to RL2, um, and that's it, right? It's just from the business side. It's just we want to make sure that our collateral type is there, so we require native USDC as collateral, and then we do require layer zero messaging, right? And also some of the internal like rebalancing, we do require CCTP bridging.
Gotcha. No, that's awesome, man. So when I was going through the docs, I saw that it looks like you have both an SDK and an API, right? So I guess, can you tell me, like, what are the differences between using the two? Why would you choose one over the other?
Yeah, so there are a few ways to kind of integrate Orderly, right? And we like to give users the options because the user base is quite different, and the use cases are quite different for all. Um, so there are a few ways, right? So as you mentioned, there's the directly to the API without using the SDK. Then we have a few versions of the SDK actually. So we have the Python connector. It's like the Python SDK. Then we have the TypeScript SDKs, and I would say there are three main versions of that TypeScript SDK. That is, one is just using the React webhooks. One is the UI components, uh, which is the full kind of the UI component library where you can just a full essentially white label solution where you just uh, use the UI component. You don't even need to design it. And then lastly is what we call the core SDK, and that's similar to the Python connector, to where it covers the core functions to integrate Orderly. Um, I think the main differentiators is the amount of work needed to integrate with each tool, right? Obviously, the UI component is going to be the easiest because you don't need design work. The front is already done. You just need to plug and play essentially. Uh, and then the others are essentially just based on your tech stack of how do you want your app to run, which runtime you want to use, which language you want to use, right? And then that's going to dictate of which way you're going to go with. We do have a couple of clients that uh, integrate the webhook SDK. I think that's the kind of the easiest and most flexible way. But that some people have certain dependencies that they cannot use the React in their current stack. So they choose to opt out either directly to the API or one of the different SDKs.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. Love the fact that y'all have different options. I think, yeah, like when we at different dev tool companies that I've worked with before, um, not having the option of like an API or a different language SDK is definitely limiting for a lot of different folks. So it's good to see y'all have these like different options for typing into Orderly. Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're doing today and like the code base that we'll be diving into before we do that?
Yeah, so I think today we're just gonna go through. We have a little boilerplate, little template of a simple DApp using Orderly SDK, and we're going to be using Hooks SDK. I think that's the most popular out of all of them. Uh, so we'll kind of go through that of how you would go about integrating Orderly, right? We'll download that boilerplate, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Cool. Can you explain really quick what the Hooks SDK is?
Yeah, the Hooks SDK is essentially, as I mentioned, it's the webhooks, the React webhooks, and that does everything that you need. It's that user-facing client for Orderly, where it goes covers all the core kind of actions or core flows that you need to interact with Orderly, right? So everything from kind of the key generation, so we require some trading keys, all the way to order placement, asset management, charts, and just generally tapping into the APIs. Because the APIs need a payload, right? So they need the signature, they need the headers, and sometimes it can be challenging to do all that on your own. So in with the Hooks SDK, it's essentially you just give all of those options and just connect the wallet, and then let the kind of the hooks do the work for you, and then they just return the results that you need when you place an order or whatever other use case there is.
Got it. So the hooks themselves, like the webhooks, those are just like some backend server code that you guys are running. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Awesome. Makes sense. All right. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started taking a look at the code base. This is the GitHub repo that I went ahead and cloned. I'll just pull up VS Code so we can take a look. But just for reference, the code that I pulled up is inside of this SDK/hooks folder. So if you're following along after watching this video and you're on this GitHub repo, that's where we're at on the code. But yeah, Slava, I'll let you kind of like take me through this a little bit.
Yeah. So with this kind of example hooks SDK usage example DApp, is we essentially have already a DApp built out for you, so then you can then see the real use case, right? And then kind of analyze and understand of what's going on behind the hood. I think the first thing is let's try to deploy it and then kind of show the people of what we're going to be dissecting and nailing down.
Cool. So I've already yarn installed it before. Let me just bump that up in case. So I guess I'll do a yarn dev and open that up.
Perfect. All the dependencies are working.
Cool. Switch over to Arbitrum Sepolia. Okay, so I
So
don't
this
have any
is this is
Arbitrum
a
Sepolia
very
underneath.
yeah. So this is a very simple interface here, where we go through kind of the main, I'd say six, 7 core flows, right? Of going through the account. So now that the wallet is connected, the first thing to do is to create the account, and this creation account is essentially just you uh, generating that and then signing that with your private key of the wallet to be able to use Orderly, right? And then you create the Orderly key. The Orderly key in this case is we use this for gas-free trading, and then also so that you don't have to sign with your wallet every time you place a trade, right? Every time you do the action. So these keys are essentially what you sign your orders with, and those are stored in the browser local storage, the private key, and that's how it gets signed.
So is
And then
that
now
kind
that
of like a session key that's signing on your behalf?
exactly.
Okay,
Exactly right. Yep. It's essentially a session key that only you have control over because it's in your browser local storage. So instead
got
of
it.
us having to expose the wallet private keys, we do this instead.
Cool, perfect. And
And
this Orderly account, this is just an account that was created with my with my ETH address, right?
correct. Yep. So
Okay,
so with your ETH address, yep. To in order to use Orderly, we create accounts in the backend for every single wallet,
gotcha.
because with one wallet you can have multiple accounts. So what we do is we essentially assign each account to each broker because we have so many brokers, so many people that use us, right? So to keep track and to keep each account an independent instance. So that's why we're creating these accounts.
Gotcha. Cool. Awesome.
And then next, let's go into the assets. So now that we have created those, we see what you have in the wallet, and then to be able to actually deposit the funds into Orderly to trade as well, and that's where you withdraw from, and also kind of the settling P&L. Um, that's a whole nother story there. But unfortunately, we won't be able to test today. Our test net is having some issues, so it's going to take a while for the faucet funds to arrive.
Gotcha.
And the next one is the order book that just shows our order book, right? All the orders that are currently placed there. And then next is kind of the creation of order. That's where you actually go to create the order in different order types. And then orders, the next tab, that's your actual kind of pending orders that you submitted. Then next we go into the positions. That's when once your order gets executed, you then have a position open, and that's when you can check that. And then trades is essentially the executed orders. When you place an order, then a trade happens. When your order gets matched, that's called the trade, right? And then you can have multiple trades for your singular order. Um, so that now that we have a little bit of an idea of what the front end looks like and the functionality, let's kind of dive into code a little bit. So let's go into the source folder. And let's see, we'll start with the main. We'll start with the app. It's on the top, the app
App.
itself.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So with this, we're just exporting different pages, right? Different React pages, and just the window login. So here we're using the browser provider injected wallet, and then if you scroll down a little bit, that's where we're actually signing with a 712 when you click. Yep.
Yep.
And then on the bottom is just different tabs, right? That we went through. So I think first thing, let's dive into the account and then how the account creation works.
Okay. So account.
Yep. So with the account, right, we are gonna be using the hook called use account, and with use account, there are two functions, account and state, right, that we need to update. So what we do is first we sign in with the wallet. Once the wallet is signed in, when we use the effect, yep, we then essentially just pass the chain ID. In this case, we hard coded it to the testnet chain ID, and we only do Arbitrum, just for this example. And then we pass that to the hook, so the hook knows, right? And then we also pass the wallet address as well. And then if we go down a little bit more, is you have a button that essentially just creates the user ID, right, and then to account, and then yes, there we go, and then we have the account. So here we are creating an account. When you click that button, you then submit dot account dot create an account. So it creates an instance in our hooks in the back end of your account with this address. And
Okay.
then the next button, the enable trading. Um, so here we are actually creating a wallet, right? So then we set the status, and then on click, when you click create orderly key, we then create the key for this instance. So account dot create orderly key, and that 30 is the expiration time for how long the key is valid for. 30, and it goes in days. So in this case, it's 30 days, and then it goes up to 365 days, so up to a year that the key can be valid for. So you don't have to create a key every time you kind of open the page or refresh the browser.
Is there any best practices you would say for how long this should be? How long have you seen it kind of like people use this?
Uh, I don't think there's any specific like security practice. I mean, of course, the lower you set it for, the better, because
Mhm.
it is stored in kind of your local browser storage. But then once your local browser storage gets cleared, then you're gonna have to create another key because your old private key, you won't be able to access it anymore. We
Mhm.
don't store the private keys anywhere, so the private keys are all yours. Um, so it would essentially mean that you do regenerate keys every now and then, anyways.
Gotcha. Cool. Makes sense so far.
So now that the account is created, now let's go into the assets, and then how to deposit into Orderly, and that's the third
So
page.
before we head there, just so like I get the picture clear in my head, basically once you connect wallet, you with the 712 signature, use that to pass it to this use account hook, create the account, and then create a key that'll just be like the session key for doing your transactions, right? Is that like the flow?
Yep,
Okay,
yep, exactly,
cool.
exactly.
Awesome.
So now with that, we're importing a couple of different things from hooks, right? If you go on the very top, so we're gonna in this page, all the asset related stuff. So we're gonna use the account, of course, the account that we just created. So that's why we're importing that. Different chains. So we need to know the environment that we're on, right? Uh, Collateral. That's essentially the assets that we support, which is USDC only in this case, and then deposit and withdrawals, of course. So let's go through kind of each one of those, so everyone that has an idea of what is actually getting done here. So with first, you're connecting the wallet, right? So we are passing all of those things, the collateral, the chains, the account itself. So we're essentially initializing here. Uh, And then after is we're getting into the token, and then we're essentially getting the valid tokens on the valid chains. In this case, it's only going to be USDC.
Okay.
Uh, and then with let's do the use deposit, right? So now that we have all those things out of the way, when we actually go ahead and deposit, a few things that we need to specify at the deposit time, right? So we need to know the address of the token itself. We need to know the how many decimal points. We need to know the token itself of what the symbol is, and then also the chain ID of where the deposit is coming from, and then the depositor address. I think I actually got rid of the depositor address in the latest SDK, but I think it should still work. Um, and then yeah, and then we are then just the next one is withdrawing and unsettling the P&L, which is just use withdraw where you don't need to do much there, not as much as the use deposit. Uh, and then we just create the buttons. Let's see. Yep, there goes the deposit. So on click, you are essentially setting the quantity of how much you want to deposit, and then you just call the deposit method. Well, first you have to set the quantity because with set quantity, we also there is a little gas fee that you have to pay to deposit into Orderly, and that's calculated in way, and that's what the set quantity does. It actually helps calculate that gas and submit the proper amount on your behalf based on how much you want to deposit in USDC.
So I remember, so we created that session key thing, right? So do you have to fill that address with some gas, or how does that work?
Nope. So you create the session key. The gas is only charged at the time of deposit.
Okay.
So you don't have to charge to charge anything, any gas. The reason why we charge the gas fee at the time of deposit is because we have a cross chain transaction that goes through
Okay.
from the source chain to the destination chain, which is the orderly L2.
Mhm.
That's that our orderly L2 is essentially the ledger of all the balances. So the funds are never actually move from your source chain, but it gets updated in the destination chain as a ledger.
Got it.
So to pay for that kind of the cross-chain message, we require that gas fee.
Makes sense. Cool.
Yeah. So now that you're able to use the deposit, then you just call the deposit function, and your funds just arrive into the orderly account. Then you get credited, and then you can start trading from then on out. And then withdrawing to be able to withdraw after that is it's the same thing. You just use the use withdraw hook. Uh, and then we do actually charge the withdrawal fees as well, and that's for the same reason of the with the cross-chain transaction, because when you withdraw, the withdrawals actually go through the off-chain engine to make sure you don't
Mhm.
have any pending orders. Um, then that balance gets uploaded to our orderly L2. Orderly L2 then verifies the withdrawal, verifies the amount, and then sends a cross-chain message back to the destination chain, the withdrawal chain, which is the Arbitrum optimism, whatever it may be. And then the withdrawal then goes to the user's wallet. So that cross-chain message from Orderly to the chain where you're withdrawing from, we take the USDC kind of fee out of your
Mhm.
withdrawal, which is I think $3 at the moment.
Got it. Cool.
And yeah, in this case, we're submitting of which token we're going to withdraw, the amount, the chain ID, and then cross-chain withdraw. It's essentially because we have several vaults deployed and you are able to withdraw to any chain of your choice. There is a possibility where one of the chains might not have enough balance to process the user withdrawal, in which case we need to do internal rebalancing between the different asset vaults. And that's essentially what this is. This is allowing the cross-chain withdraw where
Mhm.
there's not enough balance on the chain you're trying to withdraw from, and then you're essentially triggering that uh, rebalance of assets. So we do require an extra fee for that, or you just wait till we rebalance the assets ourselves, which we haven't run into any of these issues as of yet. But if there's a large withdrawal, it might affect some of the balances.
Cool, cool. Um, so I'm assuming then there's like probably specific tokens that you would have support for in that case to cover
Currently USDC only, so we only
your
take USDC as collateral, so
Okay.
only USDC withdrawal.
Got it. Got it. Cool. Do you have plans for adding more token support in the future?
Yes, we do plan to add other collateral types for sure. I think that's been a huge request from everyone that's been integrating us.
Nice. Cool. I guess
And then
this
lastly, that's just the faucet, where we're not even using the hook for that. We're just calling directly from the API endpoint. to be able to get credited USDC, so you can start trading on testnet.
Nice.
And then the last one is the settling PNL. So I'll go through this a little bit, and it might be confusing to some who don't know what perps are. So with perps, because there is no underlying asset that you're trading, and it's essentially just a futures contract, right? Uh, where you are trading, and you're trading on, essentially, I would say, the expectation of the asset, right? You're betting against the asset either going up or down without uh, trading the underlying asset itself. With that, because there's no underlying asset on its own, and the value of that contract can go up or down, and that value is not settled value, essentially, right? So let's say that I buy and I go long with 100 USDC worth of Bitcoin, and
Mhm.
then that value of that contract goes up to 120 USDC. Now, let's say I sell it. I made $20, right? So that $20 is now realized P&L since I sold the position, but that $20 is still unsettled P&L, because now there is a trader on the other side that's $20 short, right? So to be able to withdraw, we then have to recredit the account, and essentially settling P&L just moves that $20 into your account because you won that trade, and then for you to be able to withdraw those assets. That's essentially all it does.
Okay, got it. Um, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that a little bit. So I guess coming back to like just like what a perp platform is in general. Um, my understanding before this was that with a perp platform, you can, I guess, go long or short on a specific asset, and there's no like position or like certain time limit of like how long that lasts. You can just be, um, you can just last, and you just, I don't know.
Yep, exactly right. And
Yeah,
that's why it's called perpetual future, right?
right,
Because there is no expiration.
right, got it. And I'm just trying to understand exactly where this fits into that picture. I guess I just didn't understand that part.
Yeah, I think the main differentiator is you're not it's essentially, if you will, there is no hard asset that's behind this contract, right? So
Mhm.
with the regular, let's say you take spot, you're trading Bitcoin against USDC. You buy Bitcoin,
Right.
and then you hold that Bitcoin, and then when at the time that you sell your Bitcoin, you then get the money back, right?
Mhm.
uh, with this, where I buy an asset where there's no actual assets. Essentially, I'm just borrowing some funds to be able to go long, and I'm just using USDC to go long, right? And then we're trying to peg the price of the contract to the underlying asset, and that's done through the funding fees. That's a whole nother subject there. Uh, but with this, the reason why we don't kind of keep the price and keep the balance for your account is because the price of that contract moves a lot. So when you sell, you are just removing your position. So you're
Okay,
not actually selling the underlying asset.
got it. That makes sense now. Okay, cool.
Yes, and that's why you need to move some money around and recredit some of the accounts, because there is no underlying asset that you're moving. You're not just trading, oh, I have my one Bitcoin, you have $100 here, we're gonna exchange. In this case, there is not none of this exchange happening because there's no actual asset being traded.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to wrap your hand to wrap your head around it if you're not like haven't been in the space for a while, and specifically like the trading of these futures.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of I'm gonna admit, a lot of DeFi kind of like goes over my head. But that's part of why I'm doing these like streams. I learn a lot myself from these. So if like you're watching and this is like new to you, don't worry, you're not alone. Cool. Awesome.
All right. So now that we got the assets out of the way, we were able to deposit some funds. Now it's time to place an order. So let's go into kind of the next page of just creating an order. Uh, Here we use order entry hook, uh, and in this case, yep. If we let's see, we are doing some format. Let's go down a little bit into the actual order placement. There it goes. So here with these buttons, essentially what we're doing is we're placing all the required parameters to place an order. So with the price, the amount, the order type, and the side, right? So let's start with the order type. There are different order types supported. In this case, it's just the bare bone app. So we're just using the limit and the market order. The limit order is, as you will, is you are trying to get X amount of dollars for X amount of asset. The market order is you just say, I have X amount of assets that I want to sell or buy, and I don't care what price I get filled at, right? So with that, when you're submitting a market order, you only input the amount that you want to sell or buy. There is no price because it's not a limit order. You don't get to choose the price that you get filled at, right? And then with a limit order, both are required. You're required the amount of the asset that you want to sell and the price of the asset that you want to sell or buy at. With
Mm.
a side, it's either buy, sell, only two sides to the order. And then now that if those once those are input, we save that in the value, and then we are able to pass that through the hook. So when we go down a little bit, is there? Nope, that hook is probably on form submit. Oh, there it goes. So essentially, we do on form submit, and then we save all the input parameters from those buttons in this on form submit, uh, and we're creating that new object, and then we're passing that object to the use order entry hooks, which in this case is going to be the on submit function within that hook.
Got it. So like on submit, this is just taking care of like the order in the background for you after
Yep,
taking
yep.
those
On
values.
submit is just submitting that order. Yep. Once you
Okay,
have those specified parameters, it sends the order, executes the order, and then returns a success or false message.
gotcha. Cool.
So yeah,
Makes
and then
sense.
we're just passing that object where we do the form value is all those input parameters that we just saw.
Nice. I do have to say I really like just like the overall DevX of this. It's very consistent and very like you just use a function and pass the proper params and you're good to go. I feel like a lot of SDKs have like set this up, set that up, do this, and then you can, so I do like the fact that this is a really clean way of just like tapping into what you guys have built on the back end there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the developers definitely did a great job on this SDK, making it very easy where you're literally just passing a few
Mhm.
parameters and that's it. You just have to initialize your account initially, and then it gets stored in your local storage, right in that hooks instance, and then it's just very easy from there.
Cool.
Yeah, the hardest part I think in this whole process is just understanding the architecture.
Yeah.
I think that's what most people have difficulties with.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So now that the order is created, I think let's go into the positions. So that way, once your order gets executed, you're then able to see your position. Uh, in this case, a position has a few different parameters, essentially, uh, or attributes, if you will. It has the created time. It has the kind of the average entry price that you entered the position at. You have the quantity of the underlying asset, and you have the notional amount. So the notional is essentially just quantity times the current market price. And then
Mm.
you have the unrealized P&L, which is the P&L that you haven't realized yet, which is you haven't closed the position. And then you just get all of those through the use position stream. So you can only have one position per market. We do not allow both long and short for the same market. So you can only go one way on a market, which is why you only have one position per market. So then you just use the use position stream, pass the market that you want to see the position for, and then it returns all of these values.
Gotcha. So it'll return. So this is where we're returning all these values, right?
Correct.
For
Yep. So
all
so
these things.
here, if you go up a little bit higher, where we actually use the hook, we save all of that. Yep.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Makes sense.
Yep.
And
Now we can see the positions.
nice. So it's called use position stream. Is it just like streaming data um constantly for you to like look at,
Correct.
or
Yep. It refreshes all the time constantly, so it keeps pushing you the updates.
cool. And
I
I see there's like
forgot
this
the exact
refresh
frequency.
here.
Yeah.
That is that something you would manually kind of like click, or it just kind of happens?
Nope, it's automatic. So because it's hooks, it just pushes all the updates from the server
Got
to you
it.
directly. So you don't have to request any of this data,
Nice.
and that's the beauty of hooks.
Nice. Cool.
Uh, let's see. What else? Order book. I think that's the simplest one here is where you just retrieving the order book through the hooks. You just do the use order book stream. You specify the level, which is essentially the depth of the order book, how many different step ladders you want to see of how far away from essentially the mid market that you want to see the mid order book. So it goes from the top of the order book, and then it keeps going down from there, and that's the levels right there. And then yeah, and then there's just essentially all this code is just displaying that order book, the style of the order book to display, and then
Gotcha.
you're receiving a few different parameters. You're receiving the price, quantity, and total, the three things that you get from the use order book stream. And then the updates get pushed, I believe, every 200 milliseconds, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
So once you kind of subscribe to this, this is in the backend, this is a WebSocket subscription, um, and then just keeps pushing updates.
Got it. Makes sense. Cool.
So yeah, I think now we have everything we need to assemble that kind of the core app.
Nice. Cool. Um, yeah. Did we go over trades? Or
Oh, we did not go over trade. I don't think. Yeah, the trades is the last thing. Is essentially the trades is your executed orders. So once you submit, let's say, a buy order for 100 Bitcoin, you can have, let's say, two trades in the back end. You're settling against two counterparties, two people on the other side that are selling. You're buying $100 worth of Bitcoin. You have two people on the back end selling $50 each. So you have two trades going through, two trades that are executed, and that's essentially it.
hmm,
And then just use the use market trade stream, and then you're able to retrieve those.
nice. Cool. No, this sounds really cool. So like during while we were going through that, I remember you mentioned a couple of times that you guys have like your own I guess OP chain that is that specifically just for, I guess, like keeping track of these trades and everything like that? Like you don't usually do you like use that as a network that people would connect to and use normally, or what is like the functionality of that exactly?
Yeah, so the L2 is used as a ledger, essentially the centralized database.
Hmm.
That's how we use it, right? So every execution, after every of these state changes, all of this gets uploaded to that L2 chain, and
Hmm.
that's where it gets stored, those all those transactions. So even in the case that our off-chain order book goes down, our backend goes down, we're able to still process all of those withdrawals based on the last user state, essentially.
Got it.
So being able to combine and finding the right balance between being fully on chain, the full decentralization, and then also the performance aspect of things, right? Because order book and AMMs are two completely different models, and I would see them as two different use cases, right? If you have someone like retail trading, just regular, I want to swap some assets, AMM is much better for that. But the order books there are for larger orders, right? So if you're a big trader, and then also just more sophisticated traders in general, where you're placing all these orders nonstop back and forth. The API traders, market makers, right, institutions, they need this order book style liquidity. It's better for matching because the spreads are much tighter, and then the depth is also better. You have less price impact if you have an ample depth, and just the performance aspect of it, right? We're able to match these orders within a couple hundred milliseconds,
Mm,
probably even less than that. But if you go into all these on-chain exchanges, you're waiting. You're limited by the block times.
got it. Makes sense. Cool. Um, and as far as like interoperability, like the omni-chain aspect of it, how do you actually, I guess, like send messages across like different chains? Is it using something like CCIP or
Yeah,
how
for
does that work? Yeah,
for the cross-chain messaging, we use layer 0.
layer zero. Okay.
So for it's mostly just the deposits and withdrawals that
Okay.
need those messages, because we receive the deposit on those asset vaults, on those source chains, on those asset chains, and then we send the message to our L2 to keep track of user balances.
Mhm.
And then for the withdrawals, we then send the cross-chain message back to send the user funds back to the wallet.
Gotcha. Awesome. No, this is cool. Definitely new for me. Just like in terms of like um on the DeFi side and like looking at what people are building. I guess like what are some cool, exciting things you've seen people build already? Stuff that's live with the SDK.
Yeah, we currently have a couple of projects that are live. So number one is the WooFi Dex. That's a full perpetual exchange. We've seen LogX that started off as just a perps aggregator, but now they have kind of switched the product, and now they're nailing down and really focusing on just the orderly integration. So now they went from aggregator to being a perpetual exchange. We've seen a
Mm,
couple of use cases like Telegram trading bots. Um, where you can just leverage this if you want to place a trade quickly,
mm,
boom, boom, and it's all done, right? So there are a couple of different projects that do the same, right? You can tap into the liquidity of DYDX, GMX, and stuff like that, but they're not meant for that specific use case, not meant to be developer friendly and developers first, because they're an exchange first, right? They have their own
right.
front end. They operate as that broker, or wherever we don't, we are developer first. So we want to empower these developers. We want to give the infrastructure needed to those developers.
Nice. Yeah, I would say that like no, just like that walkthrough you gave me. Definitely, like I mentioned before, the DevX seems really great. I would actually be willing to dive further into it because tools like this exist. So yeah, kudos to you guys on that part.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it. We try very hard.
Yeah, man. Cool. Before we wrap up, I guess is there like any additional things that you want to go over or anything that you think is worth mentioning?
No, I think we've covered most of those things. If people want to check out documentation, it's at orderly.network/docs. Uh, they should have the GitHub repo. And with any questions, yeah, feel free to reach out to me directly. Or Rahat, if you're integrating, just let me know. If you want to play around with it, happy to support on anything that you need.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for hopping on to the stream with us today. So yeah, I'm going to be leaving once this is up as like a regular video, all of the links that we went through today in the description. So within a couple of weeks, you'll see a playlist of like all the different episodes of Protocol Explorer, including this one, along with all the resources and links. So if you're watching it later, you'll still be able to quickly go through and check everything out. But yeah, definitely check out the documentation for early, as well as this GitHub repo if you want to start playing around with it. And thank you very much, Slava, for being part of this episode.
Thank you so much, Rahat.
All right.
Excited.
Thank you all.